What if I told you that the Joker's true introduction in the Batman animated series involved a genius trick to bypass TV censorship, a Star Wars parody, and a hip-hop soundtrack? Let's keep our epic review of Batman the Animated Series going. Today, we reach the 4th episode in production order, The Last Laugh, originally aired on September 22, 1992. For a lot of fans and critics, forget Christmas with the Joker. This is where the Clown Prince of Crime really shows his true colors in the series. And stick with me until the end, because this episode has some bizarre animation errors and behind-the-scenes stories that will blow your mind. Let's get into it. The plot drops us right into April 1st. A barge, captained by a creepy robotic clown, floats down the Gotham River, emitting a green gas from a garbage dumpster. Quick behind-the-scenes trivia, the working title for this episode was actually Joker's April Fool. The smell of this gas hits an armored car driver who starts laughing maniacally and drives the vehicle straight into the river. The Joker is using this laughing gas to incapacitate the population and rob Gotham's financial district in bright daylight. People are so entertained laughing and dancing that they do nothing to stop the masked henchman. If we look at Christmas with the Joker, the character was there, but the tone was very festive, almost harmless with those pies to the face. In The Last Laugh, his introduction is masterful. The opening shot of him doing his makeup with his back to the audience creates a remarkable tension. Here, he's an urban terrorist spreading a gas that causes permanent insanity. And there's a brilliant detail pulled straight from the movies. The Joker wears a fishbowl helmet so he doesn't breathe his own gas. Unlike in the comics, this idea was clearly inspired by Tim Burton's 1989 movie, when Jack Nicholson's Joker wears a gas mask at the parade. And speaking of that iconic Joker and Batman look, there's no way you can watch this masterpiece and not want these characters on your shelf, right? If you're a true fan of Batman the Animated Series, I've left exclusive links in the description and the pinned comments for you to grab some amazing collectibles on Amazon. There are McFarlane Toys action figures, Funko Pops, and even the complete Blu-ray box set. Clicking our links really supports the channel. Check it out after the video. Getting back to the chaos, while the city freaks out, Bruce hears about the hysteria and deduces it's the Joker's doing. The Bat heads to the cave and calls Alfred, who ignores him. When Batman goes upstairs, he finds the butler completely crazy, trashing the Wayne Manor library. And here we have a milestone. This was the first episode featuring the legendary Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. voicing Alfred, a role he held until the very last episode of Justice League. Another massive milestone is in your ears. This was the first time the brilliant Shirley Walker did the Joker soundtrack, and according to producer Timm, the theme had a hip-hop beat. It was so different from the cinematic style that it shocked the producers at first, but then they thought it was amazing. This theme was so successful that it was reused years later in the Superman animated series. But not everything is perfect. This episode has some wonderful production goofs. First, Batman sees crazy Alfred, and in shock, he inhales the gas and coughs before putting on his mask. By the script's logic, the gas takes effect immediately, but Batman is completely fine. A little plot hole we can forgive. And there are more hidden continuity errors. The newspaper van says Gotham Globe, but the paper on the ground says Gotham News. Also, on the back computer, the word airborne is misspelled as airborne. Now let's talk about some heavy action. Batman goes after the boat with the classic Batboat, a cool addition to the Bat Garage, and comes face to face with Captain Clown. And here comes the best behind-the-scenes trivia. Captain Clown was a metal robot. According to Timm, it was in this episode that they discovered a loophole in the TV censorship rules, BS&P. The censors hated extreme violence against humans, but they didn't care at all if the violence was against robots. The producers thought, we can beat the crap out of this guy. And they did. Batman grabs a metal pipe and ruthlessly wails on the robot's head, and the censors let it slide right through. But before this beatdown, things only get better for the Joker, since stocks plummeted and his profits increased thanks to his gas that drives corporate CEOs crazy. However, Batman drags the barge out to sea with the Batboat and boards it. We have a brief reference to Star Wars here, because when Batman appears for the first time in this episode to face the Joker, he stares down the periscope of the Joker's boat using his breathing apparatus, and the sound he makes parodies none other than Darth Vader. The absurd irony here is that the Joker is voiced by Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself. Absolute cinema, my friends. The Joker's first two henchmen are easily defeated, but the captain of the ship tears the tow cable with his bare hands and attacks Batman. When Batman punches him, he only hurts himself, since the captain is made of metal. Captain Clown grabs Batman and spins him over his head until Batman is too dizzy to fight back. Batman is then pushed into a container, which is punctured and thrown into the ocean. That's when the Joker drops a classic movie reference. He looks at Captain Clown and says, "Well, Captain, this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship." The iconic final line from the movie Casablanca. The water fills the container and Batman almost drowns, but he manages to call the Batboat, which cuts the container open. The Joker returns to the junkyard and spreads more of his toxin on the garbage. Luckily, Batman arrives and cuts the hoses pumping the toxin. He then removes the henchman's masks, who immediately burst into laughter. This episode has great fights and good action scenes. It's funny that when Batman goes to fight the generic henchmen for the first time, he simply takes off their masks and incapacitates them. This makes you realize that Batman was a little cautious about the situation. He knew he could solve the whole problem himself because fighting could leave the henchmen insane forever. This shows that Batman has no doubts and fully trusts his ability to resolve the situation, so he removes their masks, which eliminates the need to fight them. However, when Captain Clown actually shows up, he needs to be more energetic and truly destroy him. When Batman uses his pipe and hits the clown, the worry I had when I watched it for the first time was that our Batman was going to kill the guys. But then we realized that actually it was just a robot, which can be considered one of the first robots Batman faces in his career. This becomes a somewhat recurring situation in Batman's life. Captain Clown tries to stop Batman, and although Batman grabs a metal pole, the robot is too strong for him. Unwilling to give up, Batman manages to lure the robot into a car compositor and crushes it into a tiny cube. The Joker is furious and dumps a load of garbage on his enemy. Batman survives and follows the Joker down the conveyor belt, only to discover it leads to a tank of molten metal. The episode culminates in a massive chase between Batman and the Joker inside a junkyard, where some great action scenes happen. The Joker manages to escape Batman for most of the time, and in this is a visible characteristic of Batman. In the early seasons, he struggled a lot to defeat villains and henchmen. This might seem strange for those who follow Batman today, but it was a common practice in the 70s comics which served as inspiration for the series. You really saw the Dark Knight having a hard time. Here, Batman faces difficulties in dealing with situations, showing a bit of humanity to the character and allowing viewers to connect with him. This is a huge plus, especially when you make the connection with the comic books I mentioned, by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, which are very important for this animation. He manages to grab onto a hanging bucket, but the Joker starts swinging cable hooks in his direction. Batman grabs one of the hooks, but the Joker pulls a lever and makes the hook drop. Luckily, Batman manages to grab onto some gears and reach the Joker, but he escapes down a chute and swings on a cable to reach a catwalk. Batman isn't so lucky and is almost thrown into an incinerator. The Joker throws trash down the feed tube and Batman almost falls into the fire, but he manages to save himself with a grappling hook and confronts the Joker. At the climax, a cornered Joker tries to throw a secret weapon. Right then, the animation director for this episode thought, what would the Joker throw? A knife? No. And he created the classic playing card made of stainless steel. The Joker throws some of his playing cards at him, but Batman dodges the first one and catches the second. Terrified, the Joker tries to flee but trips on a cable and almost falls into the fire, but the cable saves him. He calls for Batman to save him, who considers letting him drop, but in the end, Batman saves him. That little joke from Batman was really funny. I confess I always laugh when I see that scene. This reluctance from Batman struggling to defeat villains in the early seasons is pure charm, inspired by the 70s comic books by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. It brings a lot of humanity to the Bat. But very likely, if you're used to the unbeatable Batman of today, you might end up thinking the animated Batman was weak or inexperienced. But in reality, the animation brought a lot of the vibe from those 70s comics, which by the way are incredible. Go read them when you can. The final chase in the Junkyard is insane, and there's a reason for that. Director Kevin Altieri confessed that he changed almost the entire ending because the original script was too boring. Batman just kept getting hit by garbage. Altieri had the Bat jumping on conveyor belts, dodging molten metal, and outrunning incinerators. Oh, animation detail? When the Joker escapes down the trash chute, he jumps in feet first, but in the next cut, he falls head first. TV magic, right? The episode ends back at home. The city is saved, the gas has dissipated, and Alfred is cleaning up the destroyed library. Bruce, with his classic scowl, tells him he's going to deduct the damages from the butler's salary. Just as Alfred starts to panic, Bruce cracks a little smile and drops an April Fool's. A perfect tension breaker to close the episode. The last laugh isn't just an action episode, it's the moment the series found the definitive tone for the Joker's lethal madness and tested the limits of its own animation. But now, I want to hear from you. Do you agree this is the definitive introduction of the Joker in the series? Or does your heart still prefer the pies to the face in Christmas with the Joker? And what did you think of that trick of beating up the robot to dodge censorship? Leave it all down in the comments. I'm gonna read and reply to everyone. And don't forget, the links to those epic Batman the Animated Series collectibles on Amazon are in the description and pinned comment. Drop a like, subscribe to Comic Chronicles so you don't miss a single recap of this masterpiece, and I'll see you in the next video.